Today, on our fifth class of the Sysaid certification course, we are going to discuss customization. And personally, this is my favorite favorite class because this really brings out the creativity that is within each and every one of us. We'll see how we can make some really cool things with little HTML editing. Doesn't really require all that much HTML knowledge experience, just some basics. But if you are an HTML wizard, then you can do wonders with it. So today we are going to talk about two of the challenges we presented in the beginning of the course. See how some of the features allow us to focus our energy where it really counts. And we'll also see how with a little customization and a little setup, we can reduce the amount of emails and phone calls we get into our IT department. So let's start by talking about translation. Well, the name of the feature is translation, but it's not necessarily just to translate Sysaid to other languages other than English and any of the other languages that exist in Sysaid. It will also allow you, if you are using in an all English environment, it will also allow you to make changes to the text that appear within the system. So you do get the option to make complete translations of the entire system to other languages. And by the way, Sysaid comes in with built-in translation to many languages. I actually lost count of how many languages we provide translations for. But if we didn't translate Sysaid to your native language, then you can use the translation feature to do that. Also, we'll see how category notifications could also be translated and basically become dynamic depending to the user's language. Generally, when you look into Sysaid, you'll find some of the phrases and terms and concepts maybe not really suiting your organization's glossary. This would also be the place to make these changes. Let's take a look on Sysaid web interface how that looks. So on the menu, I'm going to go Customize and then Translate. This is, and the name of the feature is Translate, the translation, but could do so much more. Now, before we actually go in and talk about changes we make to translations, let's just cover the language side of things. Sysaid comes in many different language options. You can choose from that list. You have a default language. In most cases, that would be English United States. However, you can change the default language, and that would be under Preferences, and then Account Defaults. This is where you choose the default language, and that's going to affect the login, logout pages, and it will also affect any new user you create in the system. So when you create a new user, unless you choose another language, it's going to use that that default. Existing users could have their own different languages. They're going to see the system in a whole other language. So under My Settings, since I'm an administrator, under My Settings, I'll have the option to choose the language here. That's for admins. For end users, I'm just going to log in with an end user account. Let's do Jennifer. Enter my password. An end user can go to Change Your Settings on the end user portal and choose a different language from the default. So Jennifer could speak Spanish while the rest of the system here is configured in English. Each user can choose their own language. Now that we got that part covered, let's go ahead and talk about the change we make to translation itself. I'm going to go to Customize and then go to Translate, and I'm going to download that translation file. This file right here is a link. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to save that file, and I probably did that already before, so the name of the file has that little 3 in brackets, so I'm going to edit that file. Using Notepad, basically, or any other text editor that you have that you use, make sure it's a Unicode supporting editor. I would just go with Notepad. It's simple and it's easy and does the job. So any text you like to change in the system would appear on that file, and you can see the syntax is each line here represents a piece of text. The left side of the equal sign is the name of the key, and that you should never change. The part after the equal sign is what's actually going to appear on the system itself. So for example, if we are looking at, let's get the login page, and let's say you make, I don't know, you use, your usernames are all employee IDs. So instead of saying, please provide me your username right here for that field, I'm going to change that to employee ID. Okay? Let's go ahead and do that and see how that's reflected in the system. I already downloaded the translation file. I'm not going to download it again. So let's edit that here. And find user name. Now it could appear several times. Obviously, username would appear in many different places. I'm going to try to find the one relevant to the login page. Actually, this is the login form. By the way, the lines that begin with # are basically just comments to let you know what the following lines are all about. So you can see here that I don't have any particular key just for the username text, so it's probably taking it from somewhere else. So again, I'm going to search for username. Actually, I'm going to search for user name and search with the exact case. And I should find something that's only going to say username. Actually, I think that might be it. Let's continue searching. That up several times. So I would go with this one. This is just, and if I'm mistaken, we're going to have to go in and see what other options we have. And it's also one. So let's go ahead and do that and change that to employee ID. Actually, if the concept of username doesn't exist in your environment and every username is actually the employee ID, then maybe it's a good idea to change username to employee ID in this whole file, so it would affect all pages, not just a login page. So I'm going to save that file and upload it back from the same page where I downloaded it from. I'm going to point out to that directory where I downloaded the file, and we're going to do that one. That's the one I just edited. Click upload. It's going to send the file over to the Sysaid server. It's going to take a few seconds, and when done, it's going to go back to this same page, the translate page, and the up translation file field would get cleared. It is taking a bit longer than usual. Let me just open another tab, see if it already applied. It didn't apply it. It's still uploading. I'm not sure why it's not completing that, but let's give it a few more seconds. We'll continue and then go back and take a look at the results. So it's pretty easy, as you saw. It should be easy. It should not take us too long, but okay. Let's assume it did work as expected. If you want to translate your whole system to another language, before you download that file, make sure you change the language here. You want to make sure you're getting the file and uploading it back to the language you actually want to modify. And if you see, you can see that we have English United States, we have English United Kingdom, we have English South Africa, and we also have English. We have many different varieties of the English language. So if you're modifying English United States, only users that have English United States set up as the language, they will, only them are going to be the users that get affected by changes you make to that specific translation set. If you have a user located in the UK and they got English United Kingdom set up for their settings, then they will not see the changes you make for English United States. That brings me to another thing you should keep in mind, and you know what? I don't think it'll work. If it takes that long, the upload will not work. I'll take a look at it during the break, and we'll get back to it later today, and we're going to upload the file in. Just want to take you through some of the consideration you need to make. You can see that there's a lot of languages in the system. the end user can go in and decide they want to change the user to something, the language to another translation set. Therefore, they will not see the changes you make. So if you're only using just one language, make sure to limit the available languages to just that. So in my case, let me just deselect all, and you see English United States is selected and grayed out. You cannot remove that because that's the diff language system. So if you do that, it will not allow anybody to change the language. It will only allow English United States. If you do want to allow different languages, then you can do something like that. English United States, and then maybe Arabic, and Spanish. Let's do Spanish. And let's say Swedish. So with that configuration, you can see I only allow a selection of 4 languages. If I make a change to the translation file, to a term or phrase or anything like that, I only need to do that on 4 languages and not the dozens of languages we have here by default. So make sure to limit your languages so users will not have the option to choose something you don't really maintain. And then every time you want to make a change, make sure you update all the languages that you are using with the system. A couple more things. With that translation file, you could also translate the categories. Okay, if you scroll down, all the way down, you'll find lines that begin with the $sign. These lines are category. Everything you see to the left of the equal sign is the key name, and everything you see after is the key value. Okay? So application ABC, and that's application space and then ABC, will show in the system as application space ABC. If you would have translated it into Spanish and you wanted to make sure categories would also appear in Spanish for Spanish users, then you could change, after the equal sign, change the name of the category to the correlating name in the Spanish language. So that's all you have to change. Of course, save the file, upload it back, and that's going to translate the categories as well. You can see that $cat1 that represents a top-level category. We have cat2 for subcategory and cat3 for third-level category. So that represents which category level you're looking at. Okay, so as I said, we're going to come back after the break. During the break, I'll try to troubleshoot that and see why the file didn't really upload. And then we'll go back and take a look at the translation changes and how it affected the system. Okay, so let's proceed to our next topic. Our next topic is basically discussing the customization of list views and dashboard views. Okay, any list in Sysaid has, any list that has columns and rows and things like that, or actually maybe most of the lists are customizable. You can define what columns you're going to see in that list view, what filters you're going to have available. You want to set up a static filter on that list view, so anybody using that list view would automatically filter the list by certain criteria. And that really helps you create different views for different purposes. So if you have an administrator working only on, I don't know, let's say ERP issues, then you can create a view just for the ERP issues and make a static filter on it to filter the requests to only show ERP-related issues. If you have an administrator working in the Human Resources Department and they also manage service requests in Sysaid, then what you do is create a view specific for them. Again, you can do a static filter to automatically filter the list to only show human resources related service requests. And let's say some of the columns will not be relevant for human resources admin, like asset. Human resources don't need asset in their service request. It's not really related to anything they're doing. So you can. That's why you might need difference in which columns are available and which aren't. Okay. In addition, using list view customization, you could basically affect some of the other aspects of the system, like the matrix. One Sarah was showing on the previous class to show your current situation, drilling down the service request amounts. You saw that you have different ways to configure the drill down, what you want to drill down by. Okay, this is affected by a list view, and any filter you're going to create in that list view would be added to that matrix as a drill down option. You could also use the list if you filter it down by a certain need and decide which columns you see. You could also use that list to generate PDF files or CSV files if you need to export some information on service requests, on users, on assets. If you want to print something and bring it to a meeting, then you could do that, and that's going to allow you to easily generate those printouts. And we'll talk about dashboard view in a second, so let's skip that part. Let's see how we do that. Let me just close some of the unnecessary windows and go to the help desk list. You can see that, let's do the help desk list. So you can, first of all, you can see that you have the view drop down right here, and you have the customize view button right here. You need to be Sysaid administrator. You need to have Sysaid administrator permission to actually customize a view. Okay, so you can click on that, and you're going to get a pop-up with the view configuration. This is where you see the columns that are currently visible in that view, and these are the available columns you could add. So maybe we could add location into the view, because maybe that's a piece of information that's interesting for me in that specific view, for that specific purpose. Okay, this is where you would configure filter menus. So all these drop-down menus are defined as filter menus. So these are defined right here. So for example, we were looking at the assign to. You can find the configuration for the assign to filter right here, and decide what you want to filter it by. What are the options? Dynamic pull the options from the database. We'll see that in a second. And that's going to create your drop-down filter, the filter menus. By the way, it's a relatively new feature. The list view changed in, I think, Sysaid 7.5. There's a new layout. In the past, the filters used to be separate from the columns. Today, the filter is a part of the column. So you have the option of configuring which column it would be attached to, each filter would be attached to, and you have the option to enable or disable that filter. If you want to keep that configuration, but just not display it, not use it, you could disable it right here. You could also add a static filter. So if you only want to get service requests in highest urgency, I could do something like urgency equals 1, because 1 is the numeric value of highest urgency. And this is this is getting vetted into the SQL query. We'll look into that also in a second. We'll get into SQL and see how the database is structured and how we can set the static filter and filter menus up. So you have the option to save this on the same view you were just looking at, which is default, or choose another existing view to overwrite. Or you can create a new view. So I'm just going to create a new view, and I'm going to call it Joseph. So let's say this is the view I'm using. This is the one I want to use. It automatically changed to view Joseph. I can change back to default. You'll see location got stripped out when I changed back to default, because it's not there. It's only on Joseph. So this is how you can customize the view. Let's talk about filters. You can see some of them are available. For example, urgency is a filter you can filter by. And location, in my case, column I just added, it doesn't have a filter menu. I cannot filter by location. So let's go ahead and configure that. Or actually, you know what? In Sysaid 8.0, we already added all the filter menus that we thought are available and commonly used. So all you have to do is go and find the filter you're looking for, click Add It and just enable that filter. It will then, it didn't update it. Let's try this again. Oh, it was not tied up with the location column, so I'm going to need to tie it up with location. Close and save. And now I have the drop-down filter right here. I can choose between all, which is, not filtered. I can choose between the different locations. So I have nothing in Memphis. I've got just one under Washington. So this is how to put the filter. Let's actually, I want to explain the way the filters are set up. So I'm going to edit that filter, that existing filter, and let me just open SQL Server and connect to the database. I want to show you how this filter is being built by. So I'm going to run a query on the database, and I'm just going to do select star from service rec. That's the table holding all the service requests. So in my case, I only have just one available in my list. That is number 5. That's the one I'm looking at. So that's actually where ID equals 5, and we only get that one. Okay, let's take a look at the location of that service request. So instead of doing everything, let's just take a look at, let's just find it right here. Location should not be very far away. There it is, location. You can see that location for service request number 5 is set to 1. And what is 1? We basically just saw that the location on that service request was Washington. So what's the relation between 1 and Washington? That's a good question. And this is actually defined somewhere else in the system. This is under Customize. Under Lists, if you change the list to location, you'll find that each location you have, each menu item you have, has a value key. Okay, that's a numeric value for that specific location. So Washington is 1. The connection is made by the key number. So if I'm going to look at another table I have, it's named cust value. It stores all the custom lists and locations and statuses and everything. You can see that it has the CI statuses, the currencies, priority, status, survey answers, a lot of things that are relevant. I'm going to look at location. Let's just filter it by list name equals location. Now I get the 2 locations I have, Washington and Memphis, with the numeric value. Okay, this is what I'm going to want to look at. So to configure that filter, what we're doing, first of all, we have an option to do all. Okay, so I could also add another one saying, I don't know, maybe I want both in a single filter to get both Memphis and Washington. In my case, it's the same as all, but if you have more than just 2 and you do want to make a filter item for 2 options, then you do that. So I'm going to do r.location, and r dot represents the table we're looking at. R stands for service requests. So keep that in mind. You can actually see that it's already configured right here. So I'm going to compare r.location equals 1 or r.location equals 2. Okay, and then this is going to get added to the SQL query. It's going to filter all the service requests to the ones that have location 1 or location 2. I could also do that. If you're a little familiar with SQL, you'll probably know there's a syntax to do it that way. r.location in, and within brackets, put all the available, all the possible values you'd like to filter by. So I'm going to add that. Close. Save the list view. And now, if I go back to Service Desk, you can see I have a new option of filtering, and it's Memphis and Washington. It's going to show me all the service requests that are both in Memphis and Washington. Let's create another one. Let's duplicate that one. Sorry, duplicate that one. Keep everything the same, just make this one Memphis. So we have to service requests, one in Washington, one in Memphis. If I change to Memphis, I'm only going to see Memphis. If I'm going to change Washington, I'm going to see Washington. And I have a new item I just chose, and it shows me both. Now, if you look at that drop-down filter, we only configured all, which actually already pre-configured, and that one, Memphis and Washington. But those two came in automatically from the database. So if I create more locations, it would automatically add up here. This isn't something you need to maintain manually. So let's take a look and see how that was done. On the bottom part here, you'll see that this is the configuration that tells you where to get the possible selections for that filter. First field here is on the service request table, which column we actually want to compare with the selected value. So this is going to look at the location column of each service request and see if it matches the selection we're going to make. The selection options are configured below. So the selection options are stored in the cost values table. Remember, cost values. But it has a condition here where list name equals location. Pretty much what I did here to only get locations for cost values. If I remove that condition, I'm going to get all the statuses, all the priorities, all the department. Everything stored in that table would show up as a selection option, and of course, this isn't relevant for the location filter. So make sure to run the proper condition here. Now, we're going to compare this with the column we're going to see here. So value key, one is going to compare with this, and the display on the drop-down filter be this value caption, which is the name of the location. Hope this makes sense. You might need to have a little SQL knowledge, a little understanding of the SQL queries, how the syntax is built, but it's not very complicated if you have a little experience with that. Of course, you have your account manager or customer relations team. If you need help configuring a filter, you can always contact us and we'll provide with the configuration for the filter you need. Just last thing I skipped here is how you want to order the selection options. You could do that by value caption, the name, alphabetically, or by value key, by the numeric value of that. So this is how the filters are set up. And static filter basically runs the same way. If I only want to get, if I'm an administrator sitting in Memphis and I only want to see this request related to the Memphis location, I could do the same here. Location equals to save, and then it will always show me Memphis service request, even if I'm choosing all. Okay, that's a static filter. It runs on the view level. It's not relevant to any of the filter selection you're going to make here. So you can create a different view for different administrators that have different jobs or roles or purposes, have other things to look at, and that's going to make their job easier to actually find their needles in the organizational haystack. Now, also mentioned when we were looking at the slide, the default view affects the matrix, but it's not that default view. It's the default view under incidents. That's only if you have the ITL modules, you have incidents and all. If you have, if you don't have the ITL module, you're going to have only a list, which is actually just incidents. So anything change here would affect the section options you have on matrix. So let's take a look at the matrix right now. I have assigned to in status. You can see I have two service requests. Both of them are active. Both of them are in status new. Both of them are assigned to Sysaid, to the user Sysaid. Let's see how we could do that by location. You can see I have the option to select location from that list. I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to enable the location filter. Let's enable that and tie it up with the location column. Now if I go back to matrix, you can have the option to choose location from the list. I'm going to choose location. You're going to see for each location, how many service requests are in each status. Okay, you can do that the way around. You can do for each administrator how many service requests are in each location. Couple more things that list views are affecting. You can see that we have a view named end user and we have a view named supervisor. Those two views are affecting which column and field the end user is going to see when they go to the end user portal to see their service request history. Okay, so if you want to add more things, for example, in my case here, I have 2 service requests. I don't see the location of them. But if I add the location to the end user view, let's add location. I'm taking the liberty to run a bit fast now that we've already seen how we do the customization. Generally, you can see that the location is now available as a column in that list, and you can go into the service request and it also adds the location right here. The other view I mentioned is a supervisor. It basically affects the same list, but not the one the end user see, but the one that supervisors see regarding service request of supervised users. There are a few more views there. I don't want to go through one by one and talk about what it affects, but most of them are named quite intuitively, and it's pretty self-explanatory to understand what affect which aspect of the stem day affect. Also mentioned the PDF and Excel output, so you can go in and let me just go back to the remove the static filter. I want to see both service requests. You can use that. You can define whatever columns you want to be exported, and then click here to export to CSV. Or if you just want to get some of them, you can select whatever you want to export and then use this button here. But let's say I want to export everything. I'm going to do this button, export CSV. Let's open that and see what we get. It's exactly the same list. Let me just do a left to right. It's exactly the same list in tabular view. You can use that in Excel to create charts and everything you want in Excel. You could also do a PDF, and that way you'll get a PDF printout of each and every service request and the information about that service request. You want to add more information here, just add that as a column, just like I added location and it exported the information right here. Quite easy and quite useful actually. So last thing I want to talk about in terms of list and dashboard views is the dashboard view. Manager portal, Sarah already talked about the dashboard, and she already showed how you can actually customize the chart and add filters to them and everything. So I'm not going to get to that. What I do want to mention is that if you want to see a certain set of charts and your colleague wants to see a different set of charts, then you can just create different views for each purpose. So I'm going to name that one Joseph and have a new view and can define whatever I want on that. Maybe I want to filter the chart by let's see. Right now I have 2 service requests. We saw that on the list. Let's filter it by location. I only want to look at Memphis service requests. And as soon as I do that and submit, I'm going to see that I only have 1 service request. The chart here is on 0 to 500 scale, so 1 or 2 seem pretty similar. So just use your mouse to hover over it to see the value. So you could do that, and then you could also rotate between the views. You can also configure automatic rotations of the view. So let's say you want to create a few views, and then you want to put a big screen TV on your help desk room and make sure everybody sees all the charts, all the information. You can do automatic rotation using this checkbox right here. The user that will be used to display the information could have that checkbox enabled, and then every 2 minutes it's going to automatically rotate to the next view. Okay, that everything is clear up until now. Do we have any questions on chat? Maybe somebody wants to talk to me. Raise your hand. Okay, see no questions are here. Either way, Ronen is with us on chat today, so if you do have a question, please put them on chat. He'll provide you the answer or relay the question to me when it's time for questions. Is there a question? We did have a little question about the terminology. You can see I have here service desk, and some of you might have help desk here instead of service desk. This is automatically changed to service desk when you get the ITIL module, because then it's not just the help desk, it's also change management and problem management, and it's becoming that one place where you manage everything. So it's not only help desk. If you don't have that module, you're just going to have a help desk here, and then you're only going to have list here. You're not going to have incident, change, and problem in that menu right here. So thank you, Pedro, for that question. And let's proceed. My next topic is customizing the forms that we have in Sysaid and designing printout. If you want to print a service request form and make it available, to a technician you want to send on site with a form to get the user to sign or something like that. We'll see how we do that. So basically, customizing the form allows you to include more fields in the form. If you want to have just one tab containing all the fields you usually work on, or maybe you want to keep a short form and different tabs for different purposes. That's depending on your preference. So you could do that with the form design. You could create, as I mentioned, you could create more tabs than what's there by default. You could do that with almost any form Sysaid. You can set up a field to be mandatory. So you can force the administrator to enter information in those fields. You can even do that if you're customizing the service request form. You can even do that. You can even do fields mandatory for only certain statuses. Okay, so that's really useful if you want to force the administrator to document the solution when the status changes to closed. Because when it's open, you're not necessarily going to have a solution, so you can't force the administrator to type in a solution when it's not found yet. So this is really useful. You can set up default values. Some of you have the ITL module. I'm getting back to ITL module again, because if you have that, you have the option to make different types of forms for incidents, and it's just going to do different layout for each type of service request or each subtype of service request. And we're going to look at the printout. So let's dive in and see that configuration right here. So I'm going to go into the service request form and decide, since I started talking about location so much, I'm going to continue in that line. Let's take location is really important in my environment, and that's the first thing I need to see when I go into a service request. It should be on top of everything right here. So I can use that little cogwheel icon, design button. Click on that. First of all, you can decide which fields are available, and which fields are visible from the available list, and you can change the order of the field. So location is right at the bottom here. I can decide it's so important for me, I'm going to take this all the way up and put it on top of category. So I'm going to save that, and you'll see that it moved the location into the top of the form. I did above location. I still want to have subtype showing up on top, so that's exactly where I wanted it to sit. Again, you can add more fields, remove fields. Let's say if you're using the message a lot to communicate with the users and you want to have that all the emails in the first tab, you can also add messages to the form, and that's going to show you all the email correspondence in that same tab. Now let's talk about making fields mandatory. I gave a solution as the example. So solution is I think the best example I could give, because sometimes you do want to force the administrator to type in a solution. So if I'm going to try to save a service request, it's going to force me to enter a solution before it actually saves the serve request. However, since I didn't solve the problem yet, I can make that field mandatory only for certain statuses instead of just all. So I'm going to deselect all and say closed represents closed and verified closed represent service request that should have a solution. So I'm going to do that. Save. Now it's going to allow me to save things without entering a solution. However, if I want to close the service request and let's do apply, it's going to say please enter solution, take to the tab where the field is, and then I'm going to enter a solution, reboot the server, solved the problem. Apply, and it closed the service request. It saved that forcing to enter a solution. You also have, by default, you also have that mandatory configuration set up on category, on title, description. These are things that no service request should be submitted or saved without having those details. Status is mandatory. Urgency, I think, priority, these kind of things are mandatory. Also request user. You don't want to have a service request submitted with no request user. So this is also mandatory by default. C2, for example, is not mandatory because things might come in unassigned. You still don't know who needs to take care of it, so you won't need to assign it to anybody. Default value actually affects new service requests only. We're an existing service, so it's not going to affect that. But take a look at new SR, this form here. It has all the fields empty, maybe except priority, which has default value in it, and that's taking it from the system's configuration. Let's say I make the location of every new service request I set up to be Washington. Okay, so I'm going to go with location. I'm going to set up default value to be 1. Now, whenever I go to the new SR form, it's automatically going to choose Washington for me, saving me the effort of choosing the location if, in most cases that would be the same thing. Of course, if it is Memphis, I'm going to need to change that and not leave it at Washington. Couple more things. You can add new tabs using this button. You can delete tabs. You can delete the first one, but you can go into any of the other tabs and you'll have the delete tab button. First one you can't delete because that's the default one. If you remove that, you might end up with an empty form. So this is how you create a new tab and how you remove an existing tab. This is the name of the tab, the text that would appear here. And by the way, wherever you see that $resource.getString, this function that goes into the translation and gets the value for this key for sredit.details. Okay, so if I'm translating the system to Spanish, I'm get the Spanish phrase for general details. Each admin will see the form in their own language. Okay, and what else did I want to show? Yeah, if you create a new tab and you don't want everybody to have access to that new tab, you can make it visible. First of all, you can make the view invisible. In most cases, that would not be very useful, but you can make a view invisible. In most cases, you will make it visible. Maybe you don't want to make it visible to everybody, just for the support group, the members of the support group. So you can select everything and select just support. Now, if you're not a member of the support group, you will not see that new tab that I'm creating right here. Not going to say that, no point. That's pretty much it. What I do want to show you is the customized printout. That is configured. Let's actually run it once first. I'm going to go to one of my incidents, one of my service requests. That one for Memphis is just a generic service request created when I when I installed the system here. You can see that button here for customized printout. I'm going to click on that. It's going to give me a file to download, an Excel file to download. I can open the Microsoft Excel. You're going to see something that looks really nice for you to if a technician goes on site and needs the details of the service request, maybe there's a need for the user to sign that the problem got resolved, new hardware got installed, anything like that. Sorry. You can have the signature line here. You can add your company details, that part, your logo here, everything you need in that file. But if I edit that file right now, it's only going to have the export I just did. How would you affect the skeleton? How would you include more details from service request in that export? That's a file on your Sysaid server directory. Just going to go there right now. Look at the directory I'm in. It's Sysaid server, then root, and then web-inf, and then conf, C-O-N-F, and then I have templates. Here I can see two files. One is this. This is the skeleton. This is this is a template the printout is going to be based on. Every time you're going to generate a printout, it would override this file with the newest one and then give you the option to download. Okay, you can see the date and time is pretty much now when I did the printout. So if I want to affect the printout I'm going to get, I'm going to need to edit that file. Just do me a favor before you do that. Make a copy, because there's no way to return to default if you make a mistake, if you change anything that you didn't want to change. There's no way to roll back. So make a copy for any time you edit that file, just to be on the safe side. Now if you edit that file, you can see this the Sysaid icon. You can add another icon for your company. You can see this is the header, details for service request number. Then you get the number right here. You can see it's pulling it from a different sheet at cell B1. We'll look into that shortly. We have the title here and description. Oops, sorry about that. We have title here and description here, and they're also taking this from the data sheet. And we've got some more things here, like this is taking something from B36. I'm not 100% sure what that is, but we'll see that in a second. This is B37, and this is B6. Okay, this is the assign. It's taking that from C10, and the signature is just some underscores left together. This is the today function. Will always bring you the day you're in, and the company details for you to edit. Oops, sorry about that. Company details for you to edit right here. Now let's take a look at this is the SR printout sheet. You can look at the data sheet and see that we get all the information from the service request. The name of the columns would appear on column A, and the value will actually appear on column B. So if we look at the one I just printed, you can see under data that I've got all the values right here. So anything, when I went to get the service request number, I went to cell B1, took that value, and it showed it right here. Okay, so if you do want to customize the template, let's say we want to get rid of all of these and maybe add location. Since we're in location so much today, I'm going to need to get location information. I'm going to do the equal sign, go to data sheet, find location, location, there's location, but I don't need that because value itself will appear on column B. So I'm going to need that, B12. Hit return. It's going to do the same as the other examples I have here. By the way, if you need more space for description, we could maybe, this is what I like to do. I like to merge cells. How do I merge cells in Office? Excel, I think somewhere right here, merge cells. So now I have a big cell here, and I can generally put the same thing I had before. I could maybe align it to the left, since we're English speakers, so we're going to align that to the left, and then let's save that and see what happens. This file is read-only. Why is it read-only? Let's take a look at the file permissions. It's not read-only. It's probably the Windows 7 elevation thing. So save this. Yes. Not even going to give me the option to save it in the program files directory. Let me just put it on libraries, documents. I'm going to put that right here. And then I'm going to copy that file over and overwrite the existing file. Now it should work. Let's take a look at it one more time. Yeah, that's the file with the changes we made. Let's close that. Try to generate a new printout. I'm going to need to go back to the service request, click Customize Printout, open, and we see this is a wide field that we configured for the description. We get details here. The location, we got it from the V12 cell on the data sheet, and any other changes you're going to make to that template would appear on the printout you're going to generate. If you have any questions about that, please put them on chat. I'm going to look into the questions. I'm also going to look into the translation setback we had in the beginning of today's class. Let's take a 5-minute break, and when we're back, I'm going to address your questions and go back to the translation thing. Was actually trying to troubleshoot the translation problem. I must say I couldn't. I no idea why it's not uploading. So I'm going to keep on working on that to see what happened here, and maybe even demonstrate that on our next class, and we'll get back to it. The idea is really simple. Just edit the file and upload it back. It should work for any one of you. Not just wrong with my system right here. I think it might be something with the permissions, but again, not sure. So let's proceed. Our next topic on the agenda is custom fields. Generally, you saw that when I customized the form of the service request and the lists. We had the basic fields, the ones that are existing in your system. Location, description, title, category. All these fields are built into the system. When Sysaid was first designed, somebody sat down and thought about all the things you might need to document on your service request, and we did have that realization that we cannot give everything everybody will ever need. So what we did is we added a few custom fields. Okay, you've got text fields like text fields, text boxes, integer, list, dates, different types of fields. You can just take those fields. They're regular fields in Sysaid, just like any other. It just named custom date 1 or custom list 1 or text custom text 1 or 2 or custom notes. So all you have to do is just add those fields into the form and use translation to change the name of the field. Okay, that way the name of the field would indicate on what information you need to document in that field. So let's take a look at that. Again, this is everything I'm talking about right now is things we've already done. You can look at SR custom. You can see SR custom date. We've got 2 custom integer 2. We got 2 list field, 1 notes field, and 2 text fields. So depending on data type you'll need to enter in those fields, just choose the one that is relevant to you, only if it's not used for any other purpose, and add that to the form. Then use translation to rename that field. See, it's now going to say SR custom text 1. Just use the translation file to reflect that name. So I'm going to choose SR custom text 1. That's the key I'm going to need to edit. I'm going to change everything. Just going to make my new name after the equal sign, save the file, upload it back, and you'll have the field renamed. You've got these custom fields for almost any entity in Sysaid. So you've got different fields for service requests, and you've got some fields for asset, and user, and company, and task, and project, and again, almost any entity in Sysaid will have custom fields. CMDB, which Sarah will show on our next class, you've got 250 custom fields you can use. That's a different purpose. Sarah is going to discuss this on our next class. If you do have the Enterprise Edition like I do on my environment right here, then you have the option to add more custom fields. Okay, under Customize and then Entities, choose the entity you want to add the fields for. So I'm going to use a service request, for example, and add I don't know, approve. Let's say budget number. Okay, and that would be text, or if it's a number, maybe I could just use an integer field. And I'm going to need to choose a name for the database column, the name of the column that will store that information. So you need to do alphanumeric, no spaces. I'm going to do budget number. And there's a limitation here. You can only use anything up until 15 characters, so keep that in mind. I just created that field. From now on, every time I go into a service request to customize the view, the list, I can add that new field. What did I name it? Budget number. There it is. I can add that to the form and start documenting things into that field. And you can add virtually unlimited amount of fields into the form. I'm saying virtually because there is no limit in Sysaid, but I'm guessing, you know, a SQL database, if you create a table with hundreds or thousands of columns, I think eventually SQL won't like it and might behave funny. So I'm saying virtually because it's so many columns it's going to allow you. You're not really going to hit any limitation sometime soon. You don't have the Enterprise Edition, but you still need more than just the basic custom fields you have embedded in Sysaid. You can contact us, and our professional services team could do a custom development project on your system and get you the extra fields you need. Just let us know how many fields you need and what type of fields you need them, and we'll let you know what's estimates on that, what's the price on these fields. So let's go ahead and talk about the favorites menu. This is a simple feature, doesn't have much to it, but I like it so much. Make my life with Sysaid so much easier, navigating between the pages, of the system. So basically, if there's a certain page you go to a lot in Sysaid. In my case, I manage the escalation rules on our help desk. So I go to this page here a lot. Okay, I always need to go to the service desk menu, then to service desk settings, then to escalation rules. It's three page changes, and I know it's not taking that long, and you might think I'm spoiled, but I like it with a single page change and 2 mouse clicks. So using this favorites icon, I can click add to favorites. It's automatically going to pick up the name of the page and the URL for it. I'm going to hit OK. Now, everywhere I'm at in the system, I can, instead of going service desk, settings, the escalation rules, I can click here, click escalation rules, and voila, I'm in that page. I can manage my escalation rules. You might think that this is something that you already have in your browser. You can always bookmark your most visit pages in your browser, and then go to it using the browser's bookmarks. But if you are using different computers, you're accessing your Sysaid from your tablet, from home, from your phone, where you're accessing it from, you're not going to go with the same bookmarks. You're not going to manage the same bookmarks in all those places. You're always going to have those bookmarks right here. Okay, and managing the favorites, again, really easy. Under Preference, My Settings, Favorites tab. You have all the ones that you created. You can simply go in and modify whatever you need to modify, or delete them if that's what you need to do. That's it on the favorites. As I said, it's a really small, really simple feature. Do we have any question up until now? Anything still unanswered? Okay. So let's go ahead and sum up. Everything we looked until now, whether if it's the translation changes, the list views, the forms, the fields, the favorites menu, they all help us in their own way of making our life easier with the system and helping us to concentrate on our work. That's what I think of when I'm thinking about focusing my energy where it really counts. Looking into the translation, if the IT department speaks the same language as the rest of the organization, that will prevent confusions. Some of you might know ISO compliance require you to have the same language within the organization, so you won't have two different terms for the same thing by two different people. So you use the translation feature to cope with that. Our next topic is customizing the email notification that Sysaid sends out whenever a service request gets submitted, modified, closed, anything like that. We can customize those email notification and add more information on it, or remove some of the information on it if we don't want to expose it to the user. We can even add information by some conditions. We can use if statements that only if certain criteria matches, it will only then show a piece of information or a piece of text or something like that. Okay, using HTML editing, you can add some more graphical aspect to the email. It's going to look better. It's going to catch the user's eye. When the user sees an email that looks nicer than just basic text notification, then they will probably pay more attention to it. And when you send an email to notify the user about something, this gives you better chances of the user actually seeing that email, reading it, and it will prevent, if the user doesn't read that email, sometime soon they're going to call you and ask you what's going on with the service request. So this is really helpful. Also translation. We're getting back to translation over and over today. You can use translation and create new keys to allow you to make the notifications multilingual. So if you want to make the notification in a different language depending on the user receiving them, then you could also do that with translation. So let's start by going to the notification. I'm going to concentrate on these two: email subject to end user regarding the service request and email body to end user regarding the service request. These will affect the email notifications that request user gets when they submit a service request, when their service request closes or changes. That's what they're going to get. The administrator will get a different set of notification, and that's these two configurations: email subject and email body to administrator regarding the service request. So if you look at the default, get this variable here, status notification. This changes according to the action actually taken on that service request, what we're notifying about. And this is also being taken from the translation file. And I'm going to do, no, it probably just, no, that's project notification. I think that's SR dot, yeah, these notifications on service requests. So that variable status notification will be changed by these. So if if you want to if you're notifying the user about a new service request submitted, then it would change into new service request and then number. Or if the assignment changed, so service request number has been assigned to, and this will be changed with the administrator name. So if you want to change any of these, you could do that part of the translation. All the rest, if you can see, it just says title here. This isn't being pulled from the translation. And if you do want to pull that from the translation, and that way you get a translated notification for each user, what you're going to need to do, and this is something I never remember, so I always go back here to help, to the question mark icon here to help the online help. And this will take you to a page that describes how you want to do that. You could do that, sorry. Multiple language, that's what we need to look at. So I can create new lines in the translation file. So I'm going to go to the bottom and add my new lines here. So I'm going to name this custom, and then the key name would be here. So underscore custom dot notif underscore, and then your key name. Make sure it's unique. I'm going to name this title. And then in English, it's going to be title. But in other languages, it's going to be something else, right? So I'm going to save that, upload file back. Of course, since I have the problem with the translation, really demonstrate this on the system itself. But what you're going to need to do is going back to the instructions here. What we're going to do is do resource get string. Remember that we saw that on the list name. So resource get string, and this basically tells the notification, go to the translation file, get me the value for this key. And in English it's going to say title. In other languages it's just going to say the relevant word. Okay, you could do that with everything else here. If you do have a multilingual environment, I would recommend you to have the entire notification area here containing these resource get strings instead of using real words here like description. Let's see what else we've got here. We've got the category, subcategory, assigned to, urgency, status. I have notes here, but it's coming in between an if statement. So only if the note is not empty, it will show that. If the notes is empty, there's no point of adding the notes information here. Same goes with attachments. If you do have attachments, then add links to the attachments right here. If the service request is closed, equals true, and link to survey is defined and it's not empty, then you could also get the survey link right here. And if this is after hours, this is beyond the operating hours, okay, and this is a new service request, then you're going to get that message. The help desk is not active at the moment. Your service request will be addressed during working hours. That's the default notifications. Let's see what else we could add here. Again, going to the help pages that actually already opened, so I'm going to use that here. You get a list of everything available for you to use in the customized notification. So if you want to add, maybe even the custom text one. Remember, I added custom text one. Where was it? Custom text. Some of them were not in the original list, so they are added in the conversation on the bottom here. So sr.getCustText1 2 will get you the information from the custom text 1 field. Okay, but let's say you want a location, you could do location. There it is. You could do location colon, and then this variable will be switched with Washington or Memphis, depending on the location set up on the service request. So that's quite simple. You have a complete list of things you could use. And by the way, these variables, the Boolean variables, after hours, is closed SR, is new SR, these are also showing in the help pages. So you can go there, get the complete list, and build your own addition to the notification. If you want to do an if statement, what I usually do is copy an existing one. Say I want to add solution. So I copy an existing if statement. This would be solution. I'm going to get the variable from the help pages. So solution. There's a difference between resolution and solution, so make sure you pick up the one you do make visible. Then you also change these, and then the if statement would work fine. I'm really bad with syntax. I never remember syntax, so I always copy just an existing one and modify that to my need. Now, let's talk about some HTML customization. If your email integration is set up to send emails in HTML format, and this is configured right here on the email integration settings, content type is set in my case to HTML, then any tag you're going to add into the notification, any HTML tag you're going to add into the notification will affect the way email looks at end user side. So if you want to make the field names bold, you could do something like this and maybe end the bold tag right here. This part will show up bold and this will not show bold. Maybe you could do this italic. I think it's I. Not 100% sure. I'm not a big HTML expert myself, so I'm guessing here. I do know that B is for bold. So this is how you could style your notifications a bit. If you're a little more familiar with HTML, you could even do better. You could add your company logo to that email body, and you'd add background color and graphics and even tables. I actually prepared something pretty simple. You can see this is the standard email. It contains title, description, category, subcategory, and all that rest. But I designed a table to show this in a tabular view. Okay, so what it would look like eventually is something like this. This will be the status notification. Service request details is just a header showing bold, and in a table I see the name of the field and the value of it would appear on the right column. Okay, this is really simple. Again, I'm not a big HTML expert myself, so I'm pretty limited with the amount of graphic changes I could do myself here. If you do have an HTML designer, somebody working in your IT department with a little HTML knowledge, you can make so much with this and make these emails so much more appealing to the eye, and that's going to have tremendous effects on how the end users are addressing those emails. Do we have any questions on chat? No questions. Okay. I'm guessing we'll have enough time for questions at the end of today's session. So if you have questions, be sure to put them on chat to Ronan here. He's going to relay them soon. Our next topic is partially also HTML related. This one talks about the end user portal, how we can customize the end user portal. So the end user submit form, the service request submission form at the end user portal is not really easy to customize. In Sysaid Release 7.0, we added that customized form mechanism on that too. So it's a matter of picking up the fields and moving them over to the other side. It's really easy to do that. In the past, you had to do it with HTML. That's a little more complicated if you're not familiar with HTML. So now it's easier. However, in some cases, doing it in the HTML file still grants you benefit that you don't have with the new way. Same goes with the end user settings form. In version 8.0, we added a form design for that too. So this is also easily customizable now, and we're going to look at that in a second. The rest of the end user portal, actually including these two pages, the whole end user portal is built from HTML templates that you can modify, of course, depending on your edition. If you have the Pro edition, you can only customize the end user submit form. If you have higher editions, Pro Plus or Enterprise, then you could edit the whole end user portal. Let's take a look at how this is done. So same menu under Customize. You can go in to End User Submit Form. This is the form the end user sees. Of course, subtype is not selectable for end user, so this will not be relevant. You could add, let's say, location. You want the end user to report in which location they're reporting it from, the service request from. So you can go in and maybe even put above category, save. Now every time end user is going to go to the end user portal, they're going to have the location drop down selection, but it's not mandatory. I didn't configure it to be mandatory, so I don't have to choose location. Same thing with the settings. Remember, in this page we looked at it before when we talked about language. If you don't want to allow users to change their language, then you can just remove that from this form. And anything basically that you don't want end users to play with. So again, customize end user settings form this time, and then choose whatever you don't want them to have. So for example, time zone isn't relevant, that's not relevant. Let's actually just give them the contact details so they can go in and enter the details themselves. And maybe we don't want to allow them to sign out from the email notification, so I'm going to remove that. Let's say names are things that we get from Active Directory, so don't get that. And password isn't managed here, so this isn't relevant either. Just email, secondary email, and phone number. That's everything I want to show to end user, and that is everything I'm showing right now. This will prevent users from changing their language and switching to a non-maintained language set. So you could do that to remove these fields. Let's take a look at it from the HTML side of things. By the way, when you do this, when you make changes to the end user submit form here, it will only affect if you don't have the HTML file in place. The HTML file is taken before that one. So if you're already customizing a form using HTML, any changes you may make here will not be relevant. Actually, let's undo the changes I made. Save. Now we're back at the default. Now let's play with the HTML file. So I'm going to go to Program Files. Remember its directory, root, webnf, conf. Now I have HTML here, which I want to show you. There are several files here that each one affects a different part of the end user portal. Some of them even affect the admin portal. Okay, so we've got the log and logout HTML files. Those affects the login and logout pages. The frame header affects the top bar that you see right here everywhere in the system. So this one also affects the admin side. We've got, let's see, what else? We've got, this is the thank you page that users are getting when after they submit the service request. The user end portal will affect the main page of the end user portal. So the names are, in most cases, pretty self-explanatory. You can figure out what they would affect. In my case, I want to play with submit service request file right here. So I'm going to copy that file. I'm not going to edit that file in this location. This is important. I'm going to create a new directory wherever I want, basically. Wherever I want. I'm going to put it on my C drive. I always like to recommend on putting those files in a directory outside of the Sysaid directory. You know, because if something accidentally deletes the directory, Sysaid server directory, then at least that would stay aside. So copy the file, entered it here. Any changes I'm going to make here, I'll want Sysaid to look at this directory and take the changes I'm putting here. So I'm going to take the full local path, so C:// and I'm going to put in the appearance page under HTML files location. This is where we tell Sysaid where my HTML files are. So I'm going to save that. From now on, it's going to take the templates from this directory. Any changes I'm going to make on that file will take effect on this system. Before I proceed, let me show you a little PDF file I prepared for today's class, and we'll send it to you when class ends, alongside with the presentation and recording link. So this is basically the instruction of what I just explained. Go to preference. Actually, it's now customize appearance, not preferences. It's no longer preferences. You need to put the full local path in the HTML files location field. Then, after any change you make, you need to click Reload Templates to press that change. This button, Load Templates. So let's start playing with the file. Or actually, let's start by looking at it. So this file has HTML code that isn't very clear to me. I know that this gets the frame header.html file and use that to form the top bar of the end user portal. Okay, I know that this will create the left menu. These will create fields. For example, this one create the title field. That will actually create the title caption, and that will create the title field. Okay, this will set up the mandatory sign, the star sign, if it is required. This is an if statement. If this field is required, then that sign in. If not, just put empty column for that table row. And basically you get the description here and the urgency and all the fields that we have on the service request form. They're all going to appear in the file. They're all being defined here. Let's say I want to add, right after the urgency, I want to add a new field. Okay, so I'm going to add some spaces so it's going to be easy for me to work with. Keep in mind that this line here creates the spacing between the fields. So if I'm creating a new column here, I'm going to make sure I have that at the end. And now all I have to do is copy this piece of code. Actually, this piece of code already contains the spacing, so let me just get rid of that. Let's do that this way. So, mandatory sign, do we need it? Do we not need it? I don't know yet, because I still didn't define if this is mandatory or not. Now, field caption, this is the key name from the translation that we want to, that's the name of the key we want to grab from translation. In my case, I'm going to do sr.location. Okay. Alternately, I could do just this, location, colon, but then if somebody changes the language to another language, this will stay in English. This will just stay location. It's not a dynamic from the translation file. So I'm going to keep it at this. Now, field name, mandatory, visible, and default. These four attributes define the field that's going to get created. So field name, I have a list below here. The free field, I have the field name I'm going to need to use. So for location, I'm going to just do location lowercase. So I'm going to do that right here. Under mandatory, I'm going to need to put in true or false. So I want to make it mandatory or not. Let's say I do want to make it mandatory, so true. Visible, of course I want to make that field visible because I want people to actually choose it. And default value, I don't want a default value, so I'm going to keep this empty. By the way, if you wonder why you might need to create an invisible field, that would be in case you want every new service request to have a default value of a certain field, but you don't want to have the user having the option to change the value of that. You just want every new service request to get in with a certain location. Then you're not going to create it as a field. You're going to create it as an invisible field with default value. In my case, I don't want to do that. I just want to add that field to everyone. Since I made this mandatory, the first boolean here is whether we want to make it mandatory or not. Then I'm going to keep the mandatory sign. If I did do mandatory, I would just remove this and it would not have the star sign. So I'm going to save that file, and I'm going to go under Customize Appearance, click Reload Templates to reload that file to take the changes. And now you can see that location right here, and it has the star sign. And if I try to submit a service request without entering a location, it's going to force me to do that before I can actually submit. the service request. Now, in some cases, you might need to do that form dynamic. And that's one of the advantages you get when you edit the file with the HTML, when you edit the form with HTML file. In some cases, you don't want to force people to choose the location. Let's say you manage multiple companies. You know that each company sits at one location, so no point in asking users to enter locations. However, one company really has multiple locations, so you do want to show that location field only to users connected with that company. So what you could do, and this is also on my PDF file, this is the conditions. So this is exactly what I want. If the company name equals and then the company actual name, then this text will appear, or in my case not text but a piece of code to form a field. And then if you want something to appear in other cases, then you can use the else part here. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to do the if part. By the way, the variables are listed on top. So let me just go back to the top of this form. These are the variables you can use. You could do it by the company name or by the company key, the numeric value of that company. Or you could do that by the category. So when I select a certain category, a certain piece of code would appear, or a certain piece of text would appear in that form. That would make it. Dynamic forms possible. For example, if you want to make a different form for different types of service requests. If somebody submits service request to HR, choosing HR category, then you don't need the asset field. You can just make the asset field appear only in case you choose anything else but HR. So let's go back and copy the example I have from here. Copy that, and I'm going to put that on my HTML file right here. So this is the if statement. The company name in my case is Acme Corp. So that's, I'm going to update that. Instead of writing a text here, I'm going to add that code, that piece of code that creates the location field. And I don't want anything to happen if in any other case, just remove the else part and end my if statement. Let's save that. Again, I need to reload the template, so going back to Customize and Appearance. I'm going to click on Reload Templates, then go back to the End User Portal. Since I'm not connected with that company, with Acme, I don't have that field. However, if I log in with a different user, which I prepared in advance, Jennifer, Jennifer is connected to that company. So if she goes to submit a service request, she has the location field, and it is mandatory. So this is making the form dynamic according to the company the user is associated with, or according to the category the user chooses. So another example would be if they submit a service request regarding Microsoft Office, maybe pop up a custom field saying please choose which version of Office you're using. Okay, just ideas. Of course, if you make the form that dynamic, you're going to need to make sure you have the Enterprise Edition with the unlimited amount of custom fields. That way, you will not run out of fields. Let's see if I missed anything. Let me just go back to the slide. Talked about making things visible for. Okay, we talked about that. Okay, just my last bullet here. Something that I didn't emphasize yet. This whole form is HTML customizable. So if I like the top bar, I can remove it and I can do something else instead of this. I make something different on the top bar, or maybe eliminate the top bar entirely. Do anything you want. If you're a little proficient in HTML, if you have somebody you can use to do the designs for you, you can use them, and you know, it's so flexible. The things you could do with that, with a little inspiration and a little creativity and some HTML knowledge, you could really do wonders here. Let's proceed to, I think, last part of today's class. That is web forms. Web forms is a concept that basically, if you want to allow users to submit service requests anonymously through, I don't know, your company website, your intranet site, you're a university and you want people to be able to report in service requests, but you don't want to let them be end users because you don't want to maintain so many end user licenses. What you could do is create a web form. It's going to generate an HTML code for you. Then you could publish that code in any website, any existing web page, or even just create a new page and give people links to it. And without logging in, they're going to have the option to enter their service request and fill in their details. Since they won't log in, you'll need to know the name, the email addresses, basic contact details, and that would allow them to submit service request. So a couple examples. I said by university, so you can add that to allow people submitting service requests on the library computers, lobby kiosk. If your lobby has a computer that is free for use, you can put a web form there. External users, like a contact form website, you could do that too. So this is done. This is also really simple, really relatively simple feature. I'm going back to log in as an administrator. Then customize web forms. Create a new form using this button here. I'm going to make this contact us form for the website. Even name it website contact us form. This isn't really relevant what you type in here. It's just for you to go back later and you will save these forms here so you can see what you created that form for. Okay, these are the fields that are currently visible. You can add more, so locations, for example. As soon as you save that, so you can go back, you can preview what the form is going to look like, okay? And you can get the HTML code that actually creates that HTML file. This is complete code, including the HTML tag, the head tag, and the body tag. It's not just the code to create forms. So this could be used to create a standalone HTML file. So copy that, put it in a text file. I'm going to put that in a new file. I'm going to save as, let's save this as test.htm. So I'm going to do that in program files. I'm going to need to do that on the desktop. And I want you to see what happens when I go in. When I open that file, it opens the field, but it doesn't have any of the styling. You can see this button is barefoot. It doesn't have all the graphic behind it. So the reason is, and you can see the instructions right here. To get the buttons, you're going to need to get the CSS.zip file to get the images, and the CSS HTML settings file. I'm going to need to save this too. Put this on desktop as well. And what's the other file? I think that was the images directory. Zip file. I'm going to extract that. And just put it on the desktop too. Now when I open this file, it should have had all the details. I think it's because it's well, they are in the same folder. It's on the desktop, but it's not. I'm not accessing through HTTP. That's probably why it's not picking those files up. So let me just put that. I'm gonna do a little thing here. I'm gonna put them on root. Let's do yes. Let's do replace. Okay, so imagine this is just a regular IIS web server, and I just placed the directory and two files in the root of the web server. I can basically then go to the web server and do test.htm, that's the name of my HTML file, and then you get the whole styling right here. So this is the way it works. Of course, if you want to embed this within your own website, you're going to need to strip out some of the parts. Body and head and HTML tags are probably already in your file. I want to see an example, a nice example of what we did. If you go to Elian.com and click Contact here, then you have this little form here. It's completely different than the default. It's not the same styling. It's embedded within an existing web page. This is also done with the web forms. If you do that, it's going to submit a service request with our Sysaid, with our help desk. Okay, so to sum up, I showed you how email notifications help you increase the transparency. Okay, the user could get more information that is more relevant to them. If you do that with HTML and make this a little prettier, there's a greater chance that they will actually read those emails. So that's another advantage. Okay, and having the end user portal, you know, if you customize the end user submit form, to request all the information you're going to need to begin with, then you don't need to call the user and ask for the extra information. You don't need to send them emails about that. We also talked about earlier today about adding more information to the end user service request history page. So that's not part of this, but still it's relevant to this challenge. I'm going to stay here on chat for a few more minutes, so if you have questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you very much for being with me today. Next week on Monday, Sarah will be here with us for our 6th class. Thanks again. I hope this has been informative for you.